Hi class, I'm Professor Heron, and today we're going to cover some foundational principles of interpersonal communications. So let's go over some guiding principles that are important for you to understand, or they're going to be important for you to understand when it comes to interpersonal communication. So I bet you're wondering, why do I need to take a course about something that I'm already doing every day? I talk, I text, why do I need to take a class about it? And no matter what your personal or professional circumstances are, the truth is that communication is going to be a key factor in determining your success. Don't believe me? You will by the end of this course. Communication is basically the process of sending and receiving symbols in order to establish mutual understanding and shared meaning. Remember that word, those two words, shared meaning. We're constantly sending and receiving symbols like words, gestures. We even send symbols when we're texting, like, for example, through emojis, right? And these are all symbolic and representative of what we're trying to communicate to the other person. Now, the main categories that we're going to be covering in this class are internal operational communication, okay? And that is work within business. We're going to also be covering external operational, and that's work outside of business. And finally, we're going to be covering personal communication, and that's non-business related exchanges of information and feelings among people. And that's more when we're going to get into romantic relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouses, your children, that extended family, in-laws that get on your nerves around the holidays, and planning and managing time and conflict resolution and everything surrounding communication and how you manage these important relationships throughout your life. Some of the characteristics of communication that perhaps you may have never considered are that communication first is irreversible. Once you say something, you cannot unsay it. You cannot take it back. Have you ever, for example, posted something on social media? Celebrities do it all the time, and then you delete it, you take it down really quick. No, it's out there. You already said it. You can't take it back. I mean, you could virtually take it back, but it's going to be out there forever. It's already probably screenshot and it's in the universe. Just as if you say something on a first date or a job interview and you're like, oh my gosh, I should not have said that. What are they going to think of me, right? You can't take it back. Communication, secondly, it's inevitable. You can't not communicate, right? It's constant, it's consistent, and it is continuous. Also, communication is multi-dimensional. It has content and relational dimensions. There is what is being said, and then there's the meaning behind what is being said. Communication is verbal, it's vocal, it's visual. And when I say it's verbal, that typically refers to words. When I say it's vocal, that typically refers to spoken communication. And when I say it's visual, that again circles back to the pictures and the symbols. Communication is also, finally, it's transactional. It's a two-way street. That means that the communication process is completely integrated. It's simultaneous and it's interrelated, including the encoding and decoding of messages, the sending and receiving of feedback. What'd you say? Did you hear me? Yes, feedback. The social and physical context and other components of the communication process. The transactional model of communication is at work in every one of these levels of communication. For example, intrapersonal communication, that is communication with oneself. You know, those ruminating thoughts that you have, oh, did I do a good job? I'm never good enough. I'll never make it. Or, man, I'm the best. I did a great job at that. Did I forget to pick up the groceries? Things like that. That's interpersonal communication. And then there's interpersonal communication. That is communication that we have, with others. Also, we have mediated communication, and that means simply that the communication that you're having is facilitated by someone or something in the middle of the sender and the receiver. We also have small group communication that can be, formal, like, a cookout with 3 people, or informal. That can be formal, like, a college graduation, which you'll soon be at, hopefully, or informal, like a cookout with 3 people, okay? And then we have public communication. That typically refers to about 20 or more people. Next, we have virtual communication, And virtual communication is simply any message that is destined to a receiver that is not direct, okay? And it's got to travel through some other means to get to the receiver who may not be able to respond immediately. Sound familiar? You know, virtual communication could be text, it could be email, etc., etc. Okay, so let's talk about skills, right? We measure effective communication based on communication competence. So we measure along two different axes, meaning is my communication effective? Is my communication appropriate, right? Are you saying the appropriate things for any given situation within the given context of that situation? One situation that may be appropriate, you know, in a formal setting may not be appropriate in an informal setting, etc., etc. For example, you wouldn't address, you know, your pastor, for example, in the same way that you would address, you know, one of your homies that you're just hanging out with, you know, on a Friday night. Your address to your pastor or religious leader is going to be much more formal. There's much more reverence there. There's much more honor and respect, even in your tone and your cadence and your approach of said pastor versus, you know, the history that you have with your friends is going to be more comfortable. More topics are on the table, you know, etc., etc. So basically, you want to be able to be competent in every situation. You want to be able to be competent on your job. You want to be able to be competent in your, wouldn't this be perfect if you were just doing well at your job, you were competent in your, at home, in your, with your parents, in your marriage, with your children, you know, that is really the goal, but you know, it's very rare that all three are firing, you know, at the same time, but it is possible, right? You know, but you want to be competent and have an array of skill sets so that you're competent in every single situation. You want to be able to resolve conflict at work and resolve conflict at home, for example. And that means that you need to be able to adapt to any given situation. We also need to be able to, one of the big things that we're going to cover in this course is empathy. Empathy is hugely important for your communication skills because empathy affects how you view a situation. If you can't even relate to a person's pain, you're not going to really even, I mean, you're not really not going to give any effort to really to their situation. You're really not going to care about their situation. Whereas opposed to if you have empathy, and this is in a conversation, if you don't have any empathy for anybody, you don't really care what they have to say. You don't care what they're hurt about, what they're concerned about. It's just like, I want to get my goals met and listen to what I have to say. I don't really care about what you have to say, right? So empathy is incredibly important in communication, and empathy is basically, it's not sympathy. So most people think empathy is sympathy. Sympathy is like, oh, yeah, I feel bad for you. Yeah, I hope that gets better. Oh, well, moving on to back to my beautiful life, right? That's sympathy. Like, I feel bad for you. Go on now. Empathy is like, man, I feel so bad. I can't believe you experienced that. Like, you, gosh, can I bring you flowers? Can I help? Can I be a resource of any way? Do you need any information? Like, empathy is being able to literally put yourself in that person's shoes. And that's why in communication, empathy is so incredibly important, because it also affects your perspective, your perspective and how you see things. And sometimes we go through experiences, and if we're honest with ourselves, it kind of lowers our empathy, if you will, for other people, and it kind of makes us kind of cold towards other people. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but empathy is incredibly important in this class, and when it comes to, it's directly related to emotional intelligence. Empathy is basically, again, the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and to understand their perspective without being defensive. And it's directly related to cognitive complexity. We need to be able to look at other people's situations, opinions, perspectives from and actions and behaviors from a multi-dimensional array of not just one-dimensional. Like, for example, if you're sitting and talking to a friend and that friend is like, I gotta go, and they run out and they slam the door, you have to be able to say, you know, did I do something wrong? Were they late for work? Or, you know, did they have, you know, a pressing issue that made them act in a way that was not their norm? You know, you'll need to be able to view things from different perspectives, okay? And we need to be able to see these different perspectives if we're going to be effective in our conversations, okay? And another principle that I wanted to bring up is self-awareness. So if you're talking to somebody, right, and they're kind of just staring down at the floor, they're not making eye contact, you're not able to really relate to them, you need to step back and say, okay, what I'm saying to this person is not really, and this is really important for management when you get up into management. If what you're saying to somebody is not effective, you need to come back, have the awareness to adapt the conversation into a way that you are better able to meet your communication goals and be a more effective communicator. Some people will just, like, it'll be over your head that you are not, like, for example, if you're in a relationship, a romantic relationship, and your partner's just like, has no idea that you're upset. You kind of on your cell phone and they're trying to talk to you and it's like, oh my gosh, like, like, have some self-awareness about the conversation, and you need to step back and say, you know what, maybe I need to address this in another way, into a way that'll make you put down your cell phone, okay? So those are just some of the foundations of interpersonal communication, and some things that are pretty important. And it's important that we know how to adjust. When we know how to adjust and adopt our speech to different types of situations, and implement an array of communication skill sets, then we will be competent communicators. Hi guys, so basically at the core of interpersonal communication is finding shared meaning through our communication. And if you look at this wonderful picture right there, it is a picture of a sunrise. Now, in English, we've decided to call this a sunrise, and we attach different feelings and emotions to this based on the shared meaning that we've established for sunrise through society. We have a shared meaning of this picture, okay? And that is basically how we come to have a kind of a sort of a corporate shared meaning in society for different symbols and messages and meanings, and that is how we effectively are able to communicate. And, you know, as we come to the sunrise of our course, I hope to lay more foundational interpersonal skills to build upon. Again, in our journey in this course, and as we continue on throughout our course, I hope that you begin to see communication as a process, one that can be developed and learned, one that is fluid and capricious, but one that we can work on and adopt to become more competent communicators. Even if you communicate every day, you're going to run into situations where you have conflict, right? There's no shortage of conflict. People are, you know, angry and mean, and, you know, so there's no shortage of conflict or misunderstandings. You know, we use social media and mediated communication so much that opens the door to many misunderstandings. Or you might have problems getting your communication goals met. I hope that over this course that we can help you to build upon some foundational skills that you already have, because I'm sure you guys are already competent communicators, or hopefully you can pick up some new skills that can help you do what you're doing, but do it better, right? To help improve, and the ultimate goal is to help to improve and enrich your relationships, because at the end of the day, communication is the building blocks for our relationships. I'm Professor Heron, and this has been the Foundations of Interpersonal Communication. If you have any questions, comments, or outbursts, please reach out. I am available via email, phone, Zoom, or you can even text me too. All right, have a great day.